Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Friday, July 21st, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Friday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Chicago Cubs with Jack Flaherty and Justin Steele on the mound. You know, I don't love the fact that a pitch-to-contact ground ball pitcher like Justin Steele has had some issues with the long ball in his last couple of outings. We saw against the Red Sox giving up that grand slam and 6 total earned runs with 2 homers in the blowout loss 11-5 on July 16th. But even before the All-Star break, giving up a home run and 9 base hits against the Milwaukee Brewers, a team that doesn't really hit lefties too well. Now you're facing the St. Louis Cardinals, who at the beginning of the year really struggled against southpaws, but they've made a lot of improvements in the last month or so. St. Louis is 4th in baseball in the last 30 days in team OPS against lefties. They're also 11th in isolated power, so not bad numbers there. Jack Flaherty is pitching his best baseball of the season, really making a lot of improvements in his game. His last start, another quality outing against the Nationals, and the Cardinals are 4-0 in his last 4 outings with good amount of strikeouts, limiting the sharp contact and home run ball. I like the St. Louis Cardinals in this game on the money line on the road. Next up, it's the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Tampa Bay Rays with Kyle Bradish and Zach Eflin on the mound. Now, we see a low total in this game because we have 2 pretty good starting pitchers on the mound, but I do think the total is set a little bit too low. And, Zach Eflin, not really in the best of form as of late. His last 8 innings of work, giving up 7 earned runs and a home run. And the last start against the Royals was really concerning for me. He went only 3 innings. He didn't give a single strikeout in that game. I know it was on the road, and he's been much better at Tropicana Field, but this is a very good Orioles lineup, especially against right-handed pitchers. On the other side, Kyle Bradish faced the Rays not too long ago. He pitched pretty well in that outing, but he only went 5 innings, gave up 2 earned runs, and that was an 8-6 final score. I think we're going to see a competitive game by 2 of the best offenses in the American League, and like I said, I just think this total is set too low, giving up some value on the over. So give me the over 7.5 runs here in Baltimore, Tampa Bay. Next up, we go to Miami as the Rockies take on the Marlins. No official starter for Colorado right now, but we should see Braxton Garrett going for the Fish. I know Braxton Garrett not in the best of form going into this outing, but he is facing the Rockies after a Coors Field homestand, and the Rockies in general haven't really hit lefties too well in 2023. That was a 5-game homestand for the Rockies against the Yankees and Astros. I do think when you look at the Rockies this year and the years prior, there's a reason why this team has just really bad road records. They're pretty decent, right around 500 at home this year, 23-26, but 14-33 on the road in 2023. I don't love their chances. I think there's a bounce-back spot for Braxton Garrett. I think the Marlins bats will be able to back him up against this Rockies bullpen. So give me the Miami Marlins here on the money line and the run line in this one. Next up, it's the San Diego Padres taking on the Detroit Tigers. Seth Lugo and Reese Olson are your starters. I think the Padres are plainly overvalued in a spot like this. I mean, I know San Diego has hit righties really well in the last 30 days or so, but Reese Olson's been a solid option for Detroit this season. He doesn't have a lot of Major League experience, but so far in 38 2/3 innings this year, 40 strikeouts and a sub-4 ERA, whether it's been out of the bullpen or in the starting pitching role. His last start against the Mariners was solid, 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs, and 5 strikeouts. The bats didn't back him up in that game, but against Seth Lugo, who did not pitch very well in his last start, 5 earned runs, 2 home runs against the Phillies, and a loss 7-6. I think Detroit will be able to get to Lugo and back up Reese Olson early in this game. The Padres are 1-4 in Seth Lugo's last 5 appearances, and at this kind of price, I just don't really understand it. So give me the Detroit Tigers here. You can take them on the money line or take the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the New York Yankees. Clark Schmidt and Alec Marsh are your starters. We know the Yankees fans are getting very impatient and frustrated with their Yankees right now. They had a really miserable series this week against the Los Angeles Angels. And now you go back to Yankee Stadium, you're facing one of the worst teams in baseball. Really no excuses for the Yankees to, not sweep the series, at least win it. But for me, I don't want to lay that kind of price with the Yankees right now. Their offense has not been very consistent, especially against right-handed pitchers. So I'm just going to take the under in the first 5 innings. I like the way that Clark Schmidt has pitched as of late. His last 5 starts, 3 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of those games. And, against the Rockies at Coors Field, a tough spot for any young pitcher, but especially somebody who hasn't pitched there before. Schmidt, 6 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts against Colorado. Really one of his best outings of the year. Now you're facing one of the worst lineups in baseball. Alec Marsh on the other side, he struggled in his major league debut, but since then, 11 innings against the Twins and Rays, 4 earned runs combined with 16 strikeouts. So yes, he gives up a lot of sharp contact, and the home run ball is a little bit of a concern. But like I said, this Yankees lineup is just not hitting right now, at least not consistently. So I like the under in the first 5, and I think the Yankees win the game in the end. But like I said, that kind of price just no bueno for me with the Yankees right now. Next up, we go to Washington, D.C. as the Nationals take on the Giants. We're going to see Alex Wood and Jake Irvin on the mound. I think we see a high-scoring affair in this one. The Nationals have played in quite a few overs recently. I think we see another one in this game as Jake Irvin, his last start, really not a good one. 3 innings, 4 earned runs. A home run makes it 4 straight games with at least 1 home run allowed. Facing a Giants team that hits righties much better than they hit lefties, and the Nationals bullpen behind him, one of the worst in the league. On the other side, Alex Wood, even though the Giants have a good bullpen, Alex Wood don't love this matchup for him. He's facing a Nationals team that overall in 2023 has hit lefties pretty well, and in the last 30 days, top 5 in baseball in both OPS and isolated power, with a low strikeout rate to go with it. Give me the over here in San Francisco, Washington. Next up, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Cincinnati Reds with Tommy Henry and Ben Lively on the mound in this one. Now, at the beginning of the season, Tommy Henry really struggled on the road, but as of late, been pitching a lot better away from Chase Field. You look back on June 22nd, he went 6 2/3 against a team we just mentioned, hits lefties very well in the Washington Nationals. 1 run, 5 strikeouts in that game, and a 5-3 Arizona win. Then the next road start against the Angels, another tough lineup against lefties. June 30th, he goes 5 2/3 innings, only 1 run and 8 strikeouts in that game. That was a 6-2 Diamondbacks win. Even his last start against the Blue Jays, which wasn't as successful of an outing, he only gave up 3 runs. He had 5 strikeouts and 4 1/3, and he did not give up a home run in that game with only 1 walk allowed. So I think Henry's really improved his numbers on the road. I trust him more in this spot, and I think that the bats for the Diamondbacks are really going to back him up. We saw they had a big series against the Atlanta Braves, 16 runs in the first game in a 16-13 win, then 5 runs in another victory. They scored 5 more on Thursday afternoon. Failed to win that game in the end because of their bullpen, but I still think Arizona's lineup had a really important series in Atlanta. This was a Diamondbacks team at the beginning of the season, had one of the better lineups in baseball. They struggled in their series against Pittsburgh, the Mets, and the Blue Jays, but they woke up quite a bit in that Truist Park series. I like their chances here against Ben Lively, who, has good numbers right now on paper, but the expected numbers aren't great, especially the expected ERA. The Reds' bullpen's also not my favorite, so I like Arizona in this matchup on the road to grab a W. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Boston Red Sox with Kodai Senga and James Paxton on the mound. I think Kodai Senga could put together a good outing in this game. I just worry about the Mets bullpen behind him, which has been one of the worst in baseball in the last month when you look at the expected numbers. And the Mets lineup, really struggling against lefties, facing a solid lefty option in James Paxton. Paxton didn't have his best outing in his last start, but that was a tougher matchup at Wrigley Field against the Cubs. You're facing a Mets team here that's striking out a ton against lefties. 27.3% strikeout rate in the last month is the 4th highest in baseball, the 3rd worst team OPS, and 20th ranked isolated power numbers as well for New York against lefties. Don't love this matchup at all for the Mets. Give me the Boston Red Sox on the money line. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Cleveland Guardians. We're going to see Gavin Williams and Ranger Suarez on the mound in this one. Now, the Phillies have really struggled against right-handed pitchers as of late. We saw them do absolutely nothing against Corbin Burnes on Thursday. Burnes went 8 innings of 2-hit baseball, no runs with 10 strikeouts against the Phillies in that 4-0 Brewers win. And then even in the game on Wednesday against Colin Ray and the Brewers, Philadelphia didn't do too much offensively in that game in a 5-3 loss. Now you're facing one of the more highly touted prospects in the Guardians organization, a team that knows quite a bit about starting pitching. Williams has pitched pretty well as of late, 10 2/3 innings his last 2 starts against the Rangers and Royals. Only 5 earned runs allowed with 11 strikeouts and no home runs conceded. I think he pitches well in this game. The Guardians did not hit lefties too well, overall this season, but Ranger Suarez not in the best of form, giving up a lot of sharp contact, which is a big concern for me. I would consider Ranger Suarez a pitch-to-contact ground ball starter, but he's given up 4 home runs in his last 3 outings combined with 2 losses for Philadelphia along the way. Give me the Cleveland Guardians here, getting plus money right now on the money line at home. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Texas Rangers. Tony Gonsolin and Andrew Heaney are your starters. I think we're going to see a pretty high-scoring and entertaining weekend series between these two teams. 2 very strong lineups, and Andrew Heaney's a lefty. The Dodgers have hit lefties very well in 2023. They have a very high walk rate as well, which is a little bit of a concern for Heaney, who, does have some control issues. We've seen him walk 37 batters this year in about 91 innings of work. I think the Dodgers will be able to get to him, but I also think Tony Gonsolin could be in trouble as well, who, he's had a nice start in his last outing against the New York Mets, but before that, gave up 4 earned runs or more in the last 3 outings, giving up a lot of home runs along the way. The Rangers, a very good lineup, but not a great bullpen, so I think we're going to see a high-scoring affair. Give me the over here. Next up, it's the Atlanta Braves taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to see Michael Soroka and Freddie Peralta on the mound in this one. Now, we've mentioned a few times this week that the Braves pitching staff has not really pitched too well as of late. We saw them give up a lot of runs against the White Sox in that series, a lot of runs in that Arizona Diamondbacks series. Now, going into Milwaukee, facing a Brewers team is playing pretty good baseball right now. They won the final 2 games in that Philadelphia Phillies series. I don't really love the Braves' chances here. I mean, Freddie Peralta's pitched really well at home this season and in his career. He's got a 3.88 ERA this year at home with about 53 innings of work and 68 strikeouts, a low opponent's batting average. It's never easy facing the Braves right now as a right-handed pitcher, but I still think Peralta puts together a quality outing in the end, and I think the Brewers' bats are going to back him up. I also see the improvements that the Brewers have made in the bullpen, which at the beginning of the season was one of the big issues I had with this team, but in the last 30 days, the Brewers have the best Sierra in terms of their bullpen in baseball with a 3.02 ERA to go with it. So I like the Brewers right now. I'm going to take them on the money line in this spot. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Minnesota Twins. Lance Lynn and Joe Ryan are your starters. Now, I'm a little bit concerned with Joe Ryan's game right now. We know he is a strikeout-dependent starter that usually when he gives up contact, it's going to be a fly ball. And, recently it's been sharp fly balls, a lot of home runs given up from Joe Ryan. 5 against the Braves, a home run against the Royals, 2 more against the Orioles, and then another home run against the A's in his last start. In his last 9 2/3 innings against Baltimore and Oakland, giving up 8 earned runs and 3 home runs with 5 walks to go with it. So yes, he has 17 strikeouts in those 2 starts, but giving up a lot of sharp contact. The White Sox, as of late, they've improved offensively. They've been a lot more competitive. We saw that in that Braves series. We saw it on Thursday afternoon against the Mets. And I do think they'll be able to get to Joe Ryan for a few runs. He hasn't pitched too well at Target Field this year. Lance Lynn faced these Twins more, back at the beginning of the season where he really wasn't pitching too well, but that was one of the lone starts where he was really sharp in that game. 6 innings, 3 runs, so a quality start, and 10 strikeouts with no walks allowed. Now, the Twins won that game in the end in extra innings, but this White Sox bullpen's made some improvements in the last 30 days. It's actually been better than the Twins in the last month in terms of the expected numbers, so I think Chicago's worth the play here. I like Lance Lynn in this spot. I'm a little bit concerned with Joe Ryan's game right now. Give me the Chicago White Sox on the money line. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Shohei Ohtani and Johan Oviedo are your starters. I was really impressed with the Angels this week when they swept the New York Yankees. We know the Yankees are struggling, but going into that series, the Angels bullpen was used so heavily in that Astros series prior, and it was also a bullpen that just was not pitching very well going into that Yankees series. But we saw Los Angeles hold the Yankees to only 7 runs in those 3 games, including one game that went to extra innings. So I was really impressed with the Angels there. I like their matchup here against the Pirates. Shohei Ohtani's pitched very well at Angel Stadium this season. 2.74 ERA there with 86 strikeouts and 62 innings of work. Facing a Pirates team that in the last month is dead last in baseball in team OPS. They're also dead last in isolated power with a pretty steep strikeout rate to go with it against righties. Johan Oviedo hasn't been bad for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but they just don't back him up. Usually he is facing one of the opposition's better starting pitchers, and that's why we see in his last 6 starts all losses for the Pirates, with a lot of games that were lost by 2+ runs. Actually, all those games were 2+ run losses for Pittsburgh, giving the Los Angeles Angels here on the run line at Angel Stadium. Next up is the Houston Astros taking on the Oakland Athletics. J.P. Sears and Framber Valdez are your starters. I think Framber Valdez is a good outing in this one. The A's are below average in both OPS and isolated power against lefties in the last month, and their strikeout rate's at 25.5% against southpaws. While the Astros, they've done a lot of damage against lefties this year. Don't love this Oakland A's bullpen, and J.P. Sears, not really a great matchup for him, even though I do think he's one of the better options in the A's rotation in general. Just don't love the matchup for him. So I'm going to take the Houston Astros on the run line here, but not really my favorite game on the board. Next up, we see the final game for Friday's card in Major League Baseball. The Toronto Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners. Yusei Kikuchi and Bryce Miller are your starters. Give me the under in this one. We see Yusei Kikuchi, a left-handed pitcher, facing the Mariners, his former team in this game. Seattle has not hit lefties very well recently. They're 28th in isolated power, around 20th in team OPS with a very high strikeout rate to go with it. The Blue Jays offensively have also not been great recently against lefties or righties in the last month. In fact, the Blue Jays are 19th in baseball against righties in isolated power. A little bit better team OPS numbers, but still, I don't really think either of these offenses do too much in this game. We're at a pitcher-friendly ballpark with 2 good starting pitchers and 2 good bullpens with pretty good matchups as well. Give me the under here in Toronto, Seattle. And that's it. Those are the games for Friday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. But don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.